Alright guys, today we're going to show you how to fix an Iwatch cracked screen, broken screen, damaged screen. Here's a few of the tools you're going to need to get started. First thing you want to do is get a razor or some thin pry tool, but a razor works awesome. Next thing is some antistatic tweezers, a pry tool, like I said, similar to a razor, and some double-sided adhesive tape. And then last but not least is a heat gun or a hairdryer. Whichever one you have is fine. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and turn off the watch. To do this, you're just going to hold the side button down and turn it off, the bottom button. Once it's off, we're going to take our heat gun or hairdryer, whichever one you have, and leave it on the lowest setting. You're not trying to fry anything on the inside of the watch, but you're just going to go around the edges, and you're going to want to do it till it's warm to the touch. And then once you do that, like I said, the razor works best for this. Just be very careful, because you know how sharp razors are. But razors are just really thin, and they can really get into the sides. You just want to be careful when you get into the sides. This one's cracked pretty good, so it opened pretty easy. But if you heat up your adhesive and you take a real thin razor, this is really simple to do, to lift up your screen. But if you do have a cracked part, start with that cracked part. At the bottom of the watch, if you're holding the watch straight up, that's where you want to be super careful, because that's where all your connections are at. And I'm just going around the sides trying to lift that screen apart. I'm not really worried about the excess glass on the sides or anything. I just want to make sure I can get this get access to this screen so I can get this LCD off. And like I said, this is where you want to be careful at the bottom right there, because you have 3 cables, and if you damage those cables, you might as well kiss this phone watch repair goodbye, because you're just going to have to end up buying a new watch, basically. How much the repair is going to cost. So the connections are covered with tape, and you have to be pretty careful. Just go slow, take your time. I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure you're going slow, taking your time. But there's tape over every single connection, and I'm just trying to get this tape off, so I'm using these anti-static tweezers. If you don't have anti-static tweezers, you can use like a toothpick or a small pry tool like that isesamo tool, but you want to make sure you don't use anything that is metal, basically, that could short out anything. But these are anti-static tweezers. I'll leave a link in the description for them. Once you get the tape down, you should have access to these little bitty latches, and they fold from the top down, and that's how the cables are connected in there. So I took my razor, I took a pry tool. They're very small. I took tweezers, and all you want to do is try to get on that and see how it lifted down. You're going to want to do that 3 times to every single one, and then once you do that, you can start removing the cables. I tried using tweezers at first, but I was afraid I was going to damage the cables. So I made sure they were all released, and then I started using my fingers. I just got really close to the very top of the cable connection when I was pulling down. So I am pulling firmly, but I'm not pulling like crazy. I'm just pulling slow, and I'm tugging a little bit, and it's coming out right there, like that one came out. And like I said, once you do that, double check your connections, make sure there's no damages to the actual watch part, because sometimes if you pull too hard or if the cable gets torn, there's no real point of going any further. So make sure you're at those 3 connections right there, nothing is torn, you don't see any tears or anything like that. And if you don't see any tears or anything, you're good to go, and you can keep moving on. Most of this video is sped up, so feel free to pause it anytime you need to, just to slow down. Every watch will be a little bit different. Some will be easier to take off, some will be a little bit harder. The most important thing I can emphasize is take your time, go slow, don't rush. But right now I'm just cleaning the rest of the glass out from the edges, making sure that there's nothing there. There's a thin piece of plastic that goes around the outside. Make sure you don't take that out. Leave that in there. But like I said, just take it slow. This repair can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be. If you go slow, take your time, anybody can do this. So now I'm going to get my double-sided adhesive tape, and I will leave a link in the description. This one is the smallest thickness that I have. I'm sure you can get smaller. But what I'm doing is I'm just putting it around the sides. And the corners are a little more difficult, so I do the sides first, and then I cut them. And be careful when you're cutting with scissors or anything like that, so you don't accidentally cut the connections right there. Believe me, if it's happened, I've done it before. So please learn from my mistakes. Just be careful when using the scissors. Make sure that you're not getting a little crazy or going too fast. And like I said, I'm emphasizing again, take your time, go slow. Anybody can do this. Once I get all the adhesive around, I'm going to start taking my tweezers and I'm going to push the adhesive tape down really, really firmly so it sticks on the frame really well. This is an LCD I bought. I will leave a link in the description. The company that I bought them for, I absolutely love it. They have a good return policy as well if anything goes wrong. So this is extra tape right here that I'm putting over the battery. Or this isn't the battery, but I'm putting this down right here. You don't have to do this. This is just an extra hold for me. So if I have to repair this watch again, I just got to remember that there's tape down there, so it's going to be a little bit extra pull, but I want to make sure that this watch screen does not come off when this person is using it. So this part can be pretty difficult. We're going to put the cables back, and you're basically just going to do the opposite. You're going to put them underneath you're going to stick them in their little slot, and then you're going to close that little latch. And this takes a little bit of time because you got to get these fit in there just right. And what worked for me is I laid the watch down flat, and I laid the watch down flat like this and kind of moved it forward a little bit, and this helped out a ton. If you do not go slow on these cables, I misspelled cables, I'm sorry. If you do not go slow on these cables and try to latch them down correctly, this right here can take a while. The first couple times I did it, not necessarily on this watch, I mean, it took me it felt like 25-30 minutes to get this little thing down. So use whatever tools you have available. I had this little plastic spudger piece, and I started using it because I was afraid if I was using the tweezers, I might damage the cables, and you want to be super careful when you're putting those cables in. And I don't have the best view right here, I apologize. But basically, you're doing the exact opposite. You're taking the 3 little cables you took out and you're putting them back in. And sometimes you got to bend them a little bit to form like a little bit of an L shape to get it to go in there. But once you go in there, you can kind of push on the sides. You'll see me right here. It has like a little lever on both sides. You just push on the left and the right and you lift it in. And as soon as you get it up there and tight, you close that little latch. And you're going to do that for all 3. And like I said, don't get frustrated. Just take your time. It's not super easy. But once you accomplish that, we're going to turn on the watch. You're just going to hold down both buttons on the sides. I've had people hold down one button, say they can't get their watch going. Make sure you push both buttons. Once we do that, we're going to turn it on. Now the LCD isn't down. I haven't taken the tape off, so we're just going to test the screen real quick, make sure that it functions. If it doesn't function, then you need to go back, put the cables back in maybe a little bit further. Maybe one's not in as far as it needs to be, and you need to push it in a little bit more. Right here, you're not going to have the best touch because the screen is not down, so push a little bit firmly, and you want to make sure that the buttons you are touching are working. And if they are, then you're good to go. If something's not working, like I said, go back. Make sure that those cables are seated in there all the way. That's usually the problem. So now we're going to go ahead and start removing our tape. And these right here can be a little bit tough too, but like I said, if you've pushed the tape down really good with your tweezers and it's stuck, that's always a huge plus, and it comes off a little bit easier. I'll leave a link in the description on this tape, but this is the best. You don't want to do any kind of liquid or any kind of super glue or anything like that, it's just gonna make your life miserable, let me tell you. Super glue dries way too fast, just so you know. I've tried a lot of different things, made a lot of mistakes, so please learn from mine. So use double-sided adhesive tape, and you're just going to press firmly around all the edges. Even after I press firmly, sometimes I'll put like a book or something over the watch and let it sit for a good 30 minutes to an hour. And then I always recommend people putting some kind of case on there as well, or cover, just to help protect it. But you're just going to go over it quite a bit, press down firmly. You want to make sure that that adhesive adheres really well. And other than that, I mean, that's how you replace the watch. All watch repairs, series 1 to 5, they're all pretty similar. The only thing is the cable connections are a little different on some, and some of them are harder to get out. If you have any questions, comments, things that work for you, things that didn't work, please leave a message below. That way I can know to keep making these videos, or if I just need to stop. Thank you guys for watching.